Hello and welcome to the Ellis Team Sellers Club. We're excited to bring this to you and thanks so much for joining us today. You know, each week in the newspaper we bring articles to you about what's going on in the market, but we're limited to a couple graphics and about 700 words. So each month we're going to go more in depth and give you an overview as to what's going on in the market. And we've had some changes in the market. I think you'll see that become apparent. And if you're thinking about putting your home on the market, maybe you've been for sale by owner, maybe you've been listed, this information is definitely going to go out to all our sellers. It's information you need to know to properly win the home selling game, and we're excited to bring that.
Correct.
Okay, so Sandy, do you want to cover how buyers look at properties?
Well, typically, with nationwide statistics, buyers are going to look at 12 different properties. So that means there's 11 properties on the market competing against yours.
So we got to get it properly positioned so that your home stacks up against those other 11.
It's got to be priced right.
And in some price ranges, it might be more than 11. It might be 40, 50, 100. And in some price ranges, it might be 2 or 3. So
we wanted to show attractively
Yeah.
against the competition.
Okay, so let's look at, and this is a nice target. In fact, we wrote an article about it in the paper. When we bring a home to the market, it should attract showings, and then after 10 or more showings, there should be some offers. If we're not getting any showings at all, we've probably put this home on the market maybe 10% overpriced. If we're getting a lot of showings but no offers, we might be as little as 3 to 5% off. And if we're getting drive-ups, or if we're getting a lot of people looking online but they're not coming in, we might be in the 5 to 10% range. So we're always constantly evaluating, number one, what the market is doing, but two, activity in each property, aren't we?
Oh yes, we're tracking that on a daily basis.
Yeah, and we send those reports out to our sellers, so if there's a conversation we need to have to reposition the marketplace, we can do that. If we need to adjust our marketing, adjust the pricing, there's all kinds of different things we look at. Communication's the key here, though. All right, so let's look at pricing effect on showings. Now, we know that not every listing is going to track the entirety of the market. For instance, if you've got let's say, $1 million property, not every buyer can qualify for $1 million home, but that's just a fact. So at any given time, you know, if you price your home fairly on the market, the prospective purchasers that will look at that property is about 60%. But if we price it just 5% above the market, that goes down to about 30%. And if you're 10% above the market, you're only attracting about 2% of the prospective purchasers on that property. Let's look at inventory by price range. This is going to kind of get an overview of what's been going on here. If you've got a home in the 100,000, 150,000 range or less, there's 35% less inventory. So it's getting hard to find anything 150,000 or less. These are single family homes.
So very much in demand.
Yeah, demand and very little inventory. So if we start going 150 plus, not much inventory, but look what's happening here. We're starting to see our inventory climb. You know, that 2 to 250, there's a 33% increase over last year. 250 to 3, there's a 38.7% increase. All price ranges above, you know, that 150 mark, we're starting to gather inventory here. So let's look at where your home fits. Now, we ran these numbers. These are our internal numbers for June. About 5.35 month supply for the overall market. Now, we'll say a healthy market's about 5.5. Anything under 5.5 is a seller's market. Anything over 5.5 is a buyer's market. You start getting into that $300,000 to $400,000 range, you're looking at about 7.11 month supply of homes. You start getting into the 4 to 6, you're almost a year supply of homes. And if you get over $1 million, you're almost 2 years, you're 19.3. But if you're under that 250, you know, 200, 150, you can kind of see where you are in the chain there.
So you definitely need to know what price range you're in, though, to look at that statistic. Otherwise, you might be thinking, well, everything is just fine, when in fact you could be
That's right.
grossly overpriced.
You read the headlines and say, hey, the market's up 8.6%, but there are several sub-markets, and we got to find out where your home fits. So let's kind of compare where we are in June versus April, because in April we saw a little bit of an uptick in a buyer surge, but could have been temporary, but we saw it, we reported it in the paper, and I think the numbers bear that out a little bit. So what's happening here is we've got June numbers in yellow, and in blue we've got the April numbers. And basically what we're seeing is in almost all price ranges, the month supply of inventory is down. Not much, but hey, that's a good sign. So if we were at 15.83 supply for that 600 to a million, we're down to 14.79. So that's a good thing. I think everyone would agree. So let's look at closed sales by sales price. We have less closed sales under 150. That could be a function of the fact that there just wasn't inventory to sell.
There's no inventory, right.
But look, if you start getting 150 up to about 400, we've got anywhere from a 19 to about a 35% increase in closed sales by price. So we've had a good run in May. So a lot of those sales were pendings back in March and April, okay? Let's look at month supply of inventory. Right now in May, we're running at 4.9 months. Not bad. Pretty close to the numbers we were reporting. We said like 5.3 overall. So we pretty much agree, but that's a 14% increase over last year. Last year they were reporting 4.3. Let's look at our current inventory. We're standing at 5275. These are single family homes. We're up 14.1% over last year. Last year it was down at 4624. So look at last year, heading all the way up through October, our inventory was down versus the previous year. But something happened in about February of this year. You started to see it leveling off up into January. In February, our inventory started to climb over last year. Up 5, up 8, up 9. Now we're up 14% over the previous month in the previous year. So we started to see, and we reported in the news press back in February, shift in the market. But there's some telltale signs it might have started a little bit earlier than February.
So even by tracking it every month, it takes a few months before you see where it's going.
Yeah, and people didn't know if it was the new changes in the HUD and the closing disclosures that was altering the market in the TRID, or was it something else? And we said we're going to keep our eye on that, and that's what we're doing. So let's look at new listings entering the market. We're up about 10.6% last year. Look, starting in January we were down, but in February we started to go up 14, up 1, up 3. Now we're up about 10.6%. These are new listings coming to the market. They affect that overall inventory, up 14, okay? So let's look at new pending sales. Well, they're down 6.4%, down 7.3, down 12, down 12, down 17. Actually, we started to see this trend back last November, but no one knew what it meant. Did it mean, was it the TRID, the federal disclosures, or was it something else going on? We're starting to see a pattern here. So, this slide is called velocity. So let's look at overall what's going on here. We're starting to see new pending sales down 6, new listings up 10, pending inventory down 12, active inventory up 14, month supply of inventory up 14. So basically we're starting to see the supply of homes are rising and the demand is falling. So that's a trend we really want to keep an eye on. And if we're a seller, that's something you want to know. You want to get ahead of the market. You don't want to be caught chasing that market down.
Well, and I think a seller, somebody on the market now or somebody coming on the market wants to look at this again next month. Yep. They want to see what's happening so they can see what's happening with the trend.
Now, a lot of times, let's say you're listed with a realtor. Every realtor works differently. So we're not here to bash, what other people do. We think we've got a fantastic marketing program, but a lot of agents do. So when you pick a price, it's kind of like looking in the rearview mirror. It tells you where the market has been, but it doesn't always tell you where the market is going. So let's say we list a property in February, or another agent lists a property in February. When we start seeing changes in the market in February, March, April, May, the market may be shifting, but if we don't shift along with it, then what's going to happen is you're just going to be a listing that is listed here and the market is falling and you're chasing the market down. You're getting nowhere. In fact, you are going somewhere, you're getting farther behind. So it's imperative that you have a conversation with your agent and say, what's this market doing? Are we positioned properly, or do we need to reposition our home in the marketplace? That's not a fun conversation to have with sellers, though, is it?
Well, actually sometimes sellers and a lot of our sellers are watching these stats. Sometimes they're right on with you. Sometimes we make the phone call and they say, yeah, we were just thinking about it last night. We think we need to reduce our price.
And as agents, we're human, so you always feel bad. Let's say you've got a seller. I'm not talking about any of our sellers right now, but just hypothetically, let's say they need to sell for $300,000 for whatever reason, but their need to sell for a certain price doesn't really matter to the market. The market doesn't care what you need. If you need to sell it for 300, but the market is only paying 200,000, is anybody going to pay you an extra 100,000 because you need it?
No, but again, that's back at the listing. We can't list according to that. We have to list according to what we think the highest price is this market will bring.
Right.
And
But
being so upfront with people and caring about that so much as we do, I think we do a better job.
I think it's because we care, we tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Because if we told people, you could care so much that you tell them what they want to hear and then you don't do them any good. You do them harm. And we go on so many appointments where they were listed with another realtor and the conversation will go something like this: how did you come to that price? And they'll say, well, I have to have 350 because I need so much money to go where I'm going. Or I need 400, I need 200, doesn't matter. But you're, like I said, so that agent was trying to please you. That agent was trying to get you that 200 or that 400 or whatever it is. But in trying to please you, they can also let you down because it's the big bad market. The market is going to cooperate or the market isn't. Now, we could show you ways how to not only be positioned correctly price-wise, but we can really market very well to kind of get full exposure. But in the end, we could spend $1 million marketing your property. If it's overpriced, it's not going to sell.
It's not going to sell. And we can also show them a few things to enhance the way that the house shows so that the buyer will pick this house. Because again, when they go out to look at property, you want yours to show, to stand out.
Let's look at median time to contract. Not a big change. Right now, it's at 60 days. It's down about 6.3% over last year, so that's good. Nothing outstanding there. The list price to sales price ratio. Right now, we're running at 95.1% board wide. No change since last year. Why do we look at list price to sales price ratio?
Well, we look at that because it's really important as we list the property, but we also look at our own statistics as well. And our statistics for the Ellis team, we run about between 97 and 98%. So basically 2 to 3% higher. And again, I think that's a function of listing the property properly in the first place, and having it show well, and then the marketing that we do. It makes a difference.
And negotiations and this.
Negotiations, of course, yeah.
It's a whole ball of wax. So let's look at closed sales. Closed sales are $1,294. They were down about 0.1%. They've been running down 12, down 13, down 8. So closed sales are kind of they're down from last year. There's no doubt. Let's look at cash sales. They're down 25 to 30% across the board. Seems like that's not always a bad thing because some of the cash buyers in season they come in and they buy some of the higher end properties, but all year round some of them are the investors that want a deal. Getting capital into the market, financing into the market, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think it makes any difference, especially to a seller, because they're going to get cash at closing anyway.
In fact, if we showed you the stats back in like 2009, we had about 70 to 80% cash sales. So that's a perfect example. That was the bottom of the market. There wasn't financing in the market. Financing is a good thing.
And sometimes that wasn't the end user being able to purchase, it was the investor.
It was. And that's why
it's healthier when it's...
Yeah. So cash sales, we don't put too much stock in that. The percent of home sales paid in cash running about 25% right now, or down 25%. It's running about 30. Nothing spectacular there. I don't see that as necessarily a bad sign. But if you're a seller saying, hey, what it is saying is though, and I've run into this, Andy, you have too. I've had a lot of properties where I've sold them for more than what the appraisal was coming at, and a lot of sellers say, well, we'll just find a cash buyer. Well, the cash buyers are less and less. They're down to around 30% of the market. These homes have to appraise, and when you sell them for more in appraisal, invariably you have to come back to where that appraisal is, or get the appraiser up, or get the buyer to pay at least some of the difference. But that's the kind of market we're in, isn't it?
There aren't very many buyers that will pay more than the appraised price.
We've done it a few times this year, but some won't,
Yeah.
and some don't have the ability, or some just don't want to.
Right.
So the buyers don't want to overpay.
They don't want to feel duped.
Yeah, but that's why getting with an agent who has a pretty good concept of the market is, we know when we're up against appraisal problems, we can tell them, hey, we're at the height of the market. We may run into appraisal. I might sell it for $250, but we might have to come back to around $240 if this thing doesn't appraise. That sort of thing. But You could do that sometimes down in that 200 range because that's the hot end of the market. You start getting around the five, six, seven, $800,000 range. That's not the time to overprice it because you're not going to get multiple offers.
When you price it right, you're actually going to get more for it in the end.
I think so because you're going to attract more buyers, and that's what you want. It's kind of like an online. Think of an eBay type system. If you put an item on eBay, it could be something out of your garage, doesn't matter. And if you have one buyer, you're only going to get this much money. But if you have 1,000 buyers bidding on that piece of whatever from your garage, then the price is probably going to be a lot higher. It's the same thing putting your home in the market. If we could attract a lot more buyers to look at your property, you're going to attract a lot more potential, a lot more offers.
Well, and I think you have to realize
Interest.
how well informed our buyers are today also. I mean, they've been on the internet, they maybe looked at 12 different properties before they made that offer. They know what our market looks like.
You know, that's a good point, Sandy. They go to our website, leecountyonline.com, and they can search the entire market, and it's updated every 5 minutes. But you know what? Sellers can too. They can go to leecountyonline.com and get an estimate of what their home's value is. And then if they're really serious, that's just an estimate. It's a computer estimate. Call us out. Let us verify it more than what the estimate says. But at least it's a good ballpark starting place. LeeCountyOnline.com, definitely a website to check out.
And I think we have to realize that we have very astute buyers and sellers, and that's why offering a product like this presentation makes a difference today.
And it's not like the old days where everyone just kind of went to the newspaper or picked up flyers at the street. A lot of properties don't have flyers. They've got QR codes and they're directing you to the websites. There's so much more information available out there. And yet it still comes down to fundamentals. You've got to be priced where the market is. And if you're not, the buyers won't buy. Let's look at median sales price. We're up about 4% over last year, but notice the change here. We were running up in the 20s. That has slowed down a little bit. And keep in mind, median, the definition is half over, half under at 225. So that's kind of the magic number. But a lot of these homes in the 4, 5, 6, 8, a million, they're taking longer to sell, and the prices have actually come down in some of those areas. Average sales price is only up 1.6%. In fact, it's been down in February, down in March, up slightly in April, up. We're almost even in May. So, once you start hitting those threes on the average, not much price movement there. We track total dollar volume, and it's, if prices start declining, you could have increased sales, or if prices start to go up, you can say prices are going up, but you got less buyers buying. So we track that total dollar volume. It's up about 1.5%. We like to see that. We were down 21% in March, down 5 in April, down 13 in February. That's not good for the market. So that was also evidence of a shift in the market. So that's definitely something we're going to track, and that's a new thing we've been tracking. Let's look at traditional sales, because we get people that call in from all over the country. In the orange here, these are traditional sales. Most all of our sales now, we're up in the 90s. You don't see many foreclosures. You don't see many short sales. That's a good thing.
That is totally different than a few years ago.
Gosh, when we first got in this business, I didn't think we'd ever handle a foreclosure. We only did a couple short sales, and because there weren't very many foreclosures, we just chose not to deal with them. But then things changed about 2006, 7, and on. All the way up until maybe 2011, 2012, but we're just not dealing with them too much anymore. But people read those headlines and think, hey, I'll go buy a foreclosure in Southwest Florida, and they're surprised to find out there aren't many of them. They're dwindling, aren't they?
They really are, but there were a couple years there where we did hundreds of them.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, that is basically our Sellers Club. We hope you enjoyed it. We know it's a long video, but a lot of facts, but we're going to bring you this each month. Probably the casual person is not going to sit and watch this whole video, but if you're a seller, these are all the kind of stats. We're giving you inside information. This is the stuff we track. So when we come out, we go on a listing presentation, we dwell down right into your neighborhood. So let's say you got a home in Town and River or Whiskey Creek or wherever it is. We're going to drill macro at the overall level, and we're going to drill micro right down to your neighborhood and find out exactly where you should be and track the trends. And I think that's one of the reasons we're getting 2 to 3% more for our properties, because we do a lot more investigative analysis on the front end. And like I said, you never want to get caught chasing the market down, depending on what price range you're in. If the more investigative analysis we do on the front end, it can really save you thousands on the back end.
It's time and money to a seller.
Yeah, it is. So we hope you like it. And send us an email. You can send one to me at brett@topagent.com if you want to get on this list. And we'll be happy to add you to the monthly Sellers Club. And thanks for tuning in.